Hey everyone, Evan Kirstel. Happy Hump Day. Today I have a really interesting guest from an intriguing company, Telesign, Shelby Tallent, product executive. Uh, how would you describe yourself, Shelby, to the audience?
Yeah, so at Telesign, I'm the head of product for our intelligence product. Intelligence is a solution that we use machine learning to essentially give you a credit score for your phone number. What we do is we enable um, our different traffic, our velocity of behaviors around a phone number to help stop fraud and give those insights to businesses so that they can have actionable intelligence.
Well, that's a mouthful, and we're going to break that down because you're dealing with something as old as gosh, the Alexander Graham Bell days, and yet as new as security challenges and online fraud. So we're, two disparate worlds connecting here. But before we dive into the solutions, maybe say a few words about Telesign, a really interesting company that I've gotten to know over the years. And you guys have your hands in lots of different areas. At a high level, how would you describe Telesign?
The way I would describe Telesign is we're a company that really wants to make the digital world a more trustworthy place for everyone. Um, Really, the biggest thing is everyone is utilizing their mobile device today. We've seen the effects of the pandemic, and everyone's going digital. But when we do that, we understand that there's a level of convenience, and you really have to have a foundation of trust and reliability um, to support customers and even as an end user with utilizing your phone. So again, I think Telesign, the most unique thing about it is we want to commit to really having continuous trust and really making you enabled to utilize essentially the metaverse, your digital identity in any way that you can, and also allowing yourself to be the fullest version of yourself. So.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. And we're dealing with something, a telephone number that's ubiquitous, and everyone has one or multiple, and that opens up so many security issues, challenges for businesses, for individuals. And so, tell us a little bit more about your team at Telesign and how you help earn customers' trust, and what the challenges are that you're helping customers overcome when it comes to the old school telephony, telephone network, telephone number challenge.
Yeah, so here at Telesign, I have an excellent team. We have so many different data scientists, machine learning engineers, software engineers, people on the sales marketing side, and then specifically the people that I really appreciate the most are my product managers. We work backwards from our customer needs and also what our business needs are as well. Right now, we've really seen that specific to internal revenue share type of fraud, which we'll speak about a little bit further, that it's an $8 billion a year business. And right now, a fraud attack takes roughly in a minute can cost the business about $50,000. Um, my company and my team, we really want to make sure that we do have continuous trust. And really, what that means is we're utilizing all of our data insights. We're really looking at traffic patterns, understanding the velocity of those data insights surrounding your phone number and other attributes that we utilize.
So let's talk about that specifically. There's a buzzword, four-letter acronym, IRSF, International Revenue Sharing Fraud. Explain what that is. It's actually kind of a new buzzword for me, and
Mhm.
how this fraud works for the layman, CXO, CIO, who may not be schooled in telephony per se.
Yeah, so international revenue share fraud, or IRSF, is essentially an attack where a fraudster can hijack a routine business process to divert those funds in small amounts to themselves. It's really not new. It's been around for decades, but I think because of the most recent years, especially with being the pandemic, we've taken a lot of our offline activities and moved them to online activities. Businesses have really focused on e-commerce. So that means that communications to customers are happening at a higher volume for both voice and SMS. With IRSF, really how this attack happens from start to finish is this fraudster, they're going to legally acquire a premium rate phone number or a set of number ranges to register on a specific app or website, triggering voice calls or those SMS messages. Then that fraudster will initiate automated scripts to cycle through those phone numbers in that range. These test scripts, they'll have a couple transactions at first to see if the number is terminated or if they start to see momentum. They see that things are building up and there's a burst of traffic in those ranges. Third, the fraudster is going to conclude that the premium rate number providers and content providers to carry out the artificial inflation of traffic from acquired numbers are there. So they're colluding with them. They can see this traffic's going through. You can see it affecting your UseCast or your CPaaS provider. Fraudsters then continue to move on from one another to another and really carry on that traffic until the number ranges are blocked by the originating home operator. So really, the method of attack really focuses on two-factor authentication, SMS voice spamming, callback. It's something that's so prevalent, and it scares me. I mean, as someone who is also a Navy veteran, I used to really protect people's physical well-being. Now I'm on the other side fighting to protect your digital identity. Really, like in the year of 2020, 59 million Americans reported falling victim to some type of phone scam. An internal revenue share type of fraud falls within that category.
And it seems like one of those frauds that's almost invisible, very, very difficult to know it's happening until way, way later on. You don't even hear that much in the press about this fraud, and yet there are multi-billion dollar numbers behind this kind of fraud. So you mentioned a typical business might lose $50,000. So tell us about the impacts on the companies and the costs and the headaches involved, and
Yes.
why this is so difficult to catch or prevent.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the reason it's so hard to catch is because these fraudsters are going right under the radar. So they're doing just enough traffic to where you're not going to block it. And they'll test what those thresholds are. So really, I've said that IRSF type of fraud, it's an 8 billion a year industry. And this is really attributed to major losses. Since 2013, that's been 6 times over. And again, a single attack, it can happen in a minute. The average cost to a business is that $50,000. And I think that businesses probably don't realize that because that happens in a minute. But those minutes add up over time, and then you are getting hit back with hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars, depending on the side of your business.
And where does it hit the business, in your opinion? Is it the front end PBX, the contact center, individual employees? Like where are the weaknesses in a typical distributed enterprise?
Yeah, so I think that IRSF is unlike any other type of online fraud, such as like account takeover or SIM
Mhm.
swapping. IRSF targets those businesses with specific characterizations. So, a couple examples is a global enterprise with a high volume of daily calls and messages. That's the number one target for an IRSF fraudster.
Mm.
That's where they can steal small pieces from millions of transactions to stealthily acquire a huge payoff. Secondary, we have companies that engage with customers for SMS and voice verification, or account openings, transaction initiation are also vulnerable to IRSF. A fraudster can hijack the verification process to divert funds to themselves, which is
Mm.
another form of taking that money. And then lastly, another really big one that people do not consider are mobile app providers who onboard high volumes of customers quickly while verifying their legitimate users are also victims of IRSF. These providers, as a customer, they require you to register through a mobile app download to their smartphones.
Mhm.
Um, that new account is then verified with a one-time passcode (OTP) sent via SMS, and the IRSF attack will actually occur at that point the one-time passcode request is happening to that premium rate number. And then it will generate a high charge, and then they get back paid for it.
Wow, that's brutal. And I imagine there's a lot of fraud that's either not reported or not even discovered because it's such an insidious kind of vulnerability. How do businesses even know they're vulnerable to this and you know, audit their sort of network and infrastructure to understand the risks?
Yeah, I mean, there's some telltale signs that indicate IRSF is underway. Some of the first signs of an IRSF strike is like a spike in text attempt volume. These attempts are going to take place across many geographical regions. So the location of that incoming communication traffic should really be considered in particular. So if that country doesn't align with the expected business level in that region, that's a high level indicator that you may need to dig in and see what's going on. Another sign that you can use to detect potential IRSF fraud is the speed and rate at which SMS are incoming. If those messages are received at an unusually high speed, especially if there is a jump from a low to a high rate number in a short period of time, an IRSF attack may actually already be occurring. Um, and I think that it's really important that companies learn how to detect those, and then you can start looking at how you defend against it.
Interesting. Um, so, you know, once they have a plan of attack or a strategy, how do you actually put, you know, defensive, offensive measures in place? I think that's what Telesign is really good at, right?
Yeah, so there's several ways that you can really defend against IRSF. The first one's just going to be monitoring flagged phone numbers. So making sure that if there's someone who's potentially a risky or suspicious user and that call comes in, you need to flag that person. So then you can really keep a close eye on that
Hmm.
behavior of that traffic. You also need to note the geographic red flags. So a phone number shouldn't raise suspicion based upon its location. However, when all of the pieces of information are compiled and really viewed holistically, a geographic attribute can help determine if a call is legitimate or a part of this IRSF attempt. So again, looking at those traffic patterns, looking at normal behavior, if there's things that are abnormal that go beyond a typical fluctuation, that needs to be monitored. Then, once you kind of have an understanding of the traffic behavior and velocity of a phone number, you can implement an up-to-date spam blocker. Spam blockers are great. They're really effective at minimizing the risk of IRSF. However, companies often allow too many risky users to enter their ecosystem to limit friction for the customer. Because as a business, you want to have a friction right experience. You don't want it to be too cumbersome, but you still want to protect your end user. And that's really what we're utilizing here at Telesign is like, what is that friction right experience so that we can ensure we have continuous trust?
I love it. Continuous trust. That'll be the buzzword for this year. And so, what do you know Telesign solutions look like? I mean, how do you put those in place with
Yeah,
clients, and how do they address those threats in particular?
yeah. So with me being the head of our intelligence product, I'm probably a little biased, but I think that utilizing our intelligence solution is the best way to shut down IRSF fraud before it starts. What intelligence does is it helps defend against IRSF by analyzing those phone number behaviors. So, for example, it can alert you to a particular phone number with a history of sending large batches of SMS messages in a short period of time and red flag for IRSF attacks. So, what we do is we utilize advanced machine learning that will evaluate those global traffic patterns, the phone data attributes, and the world's largest fraud database, which we have. And then intelligence delivers a comprehensive phone number intelligence to provide protect against that type of fraud. Not only are we going to give you those insights, but we're going to deliver you a reputation score. And what this is a recommendation on if you should allow, block, or flag a specific phone number so that as a business, you can use that action or those details to really determine what to do with a phone number that's potentially a risky user. Again, IRSF is increasing. It's costly. It's elusive, and really we need to be able to identify and stop it in real time. It's a different scenario when you're trying to identify fraud. It's really just a different change in mindset when you want to prevent it. To leave it on a really impactful note, in 2021, it was the first year that the a number of fraud prevented was actually lower than the amount of fraud that occurred. That's
Wow.
scary. That's terrifying to me.
Yeah, well, fascinating what you guys gals are doing. You're relatively new to the company. I think you joined earlier this year. Just looking at your
Mhm,
LinkedIn bio, you worked for some amazing companies, like Amazon and Nordstrom's
mhm.
and Akamai, and you've had quite an interesting career path. What attracted you to Telesign? What was intriguing about your latest opportunity?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is that it allowed me to be in a space that I was passionate about. I've been
Mhm.
focused on very specific use cases in some industries, where it may or may not have touched data. And with someone who is actively pursuing their education and their degrees focused around information and data sets as a whole, that was a priority. Second to that was having an inclusive environment. Being a woman in tech, being a queer woman in tech, Telesign gave me a voice and gave me a platform to showcase my skill sets. And when I joined in February, by the time in May, they had asked me to take on leading intelligence as a whole, and I really appreciated the opportunity. And I can see that they're really putting in different parameters to make sure that this is an inclusive environment and that diversity, equity, inclusion is a priority here. And so for me, also being a Navy veteran, the last really big one was I wanted to protect people. That's what I wanted to do until I ended up getting injured in service and becoming a disabled veteran. And here I'm still able to protect people just in um, a digital way that allows me to do that, even though I do have some injuries and disabilities, which is just fantastic. I really enjoy my time here at Telesign.
Oh, and it totally comes across. So thanks so much for what you do. Thanks for your service. Where's home, by the way? Where's home base? Where are you streaming in from at
I
the
am
moment?
located in the Seattle area, but I am a Texan at heart, and you will hear my
Okay.
accent come out sometimes.
All right. We'll have to bring it out on the next call. But thanks so much for joining me. Thanks for sharing, this amazing mission you're on. And good luck. We're going to need it in this new brave world of lack of trust and hackers. So uh, onwards and upwards. Take care, Shelby. Really, really great to chat.
Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it. Have a great day.